All right. I'd like to start out by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahushai, Ba'Hashem Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson.
I'd like to start out by saying Barakatah Yahweh.
The name of this one,
Ba'Hashem Yahushai.
the name of this one is 2020, Year of Prophecy. And got a couple of articles I would like to go into through the spirit of Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahushai, Ba'Hashem Kodash, pertaining to prophecy. And pretty much, what's written in the scriptures, that was the blueprint, or that is the blueprint of things that would happen on the earth. You have world history, you have different judgments that have played out around the earth. You have different scenarios, different things that have taken place, different nations that would come up and fall down. And pretty much the end judgments, the suffering of the people of the Lord, the Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, and many different things that would take place on the earth prior to Yahweh sending his son Yahweh Shai with the angels to put an end to the final rulership on the planet, which would be Esau. And many different prophecies that were given throughout different time periods in history that would usher in the end of the world, as the disciples asked Yahweh Shai in the book of Matthew, the 24th chapter, about this time period. Because, see, unlike today, back then, today the men of the Lord are in tune, but back then the apostles, which were at the time were disciples, they understood that in order for the kingdom of Israel to rise, that empire that was ruling back then, which was the Roman Empire, had to fall. But they thought it was going to happen back then, but it didn't. It's going to happen today. There were certain prophecies that had to take place that weren't really revealed during the time when the apostles were alive, except for the apostle John, that had to take place prior to the kingdom coming in with this everlasting peace. So we're going to start here, Matthew 24:3. Excuse me. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Now, if you've been studying, you understand that the word world in English has many different definitions and has many different words in the Greek, in its original in the Greek, that explain the word world, and they don't all just mean world. There's different definitions that give different senses and different meanings, of what is meant by the different times this particular word was used, which they just rendered world in English. And this is why a lot of people get confused, because they don't differentiate in the worlds that they mention in the English. So that's why you have to go back to the original language. When you go back to the original language of this word world in Matthew 24, it goes back to the word eon. And when we look up the word eon right here, which is G165, we read forever, an unbroken age, perpetuity of time, eternity. There's different ages. You can have an ongoing age, or you can have an unbroken age, which is the same thing, or you can have a perpetuity of time, or you can have, right here, as it says here, period of time, age. Like when one kingdom rules, let's say from 605 BC to 539 BC, that was the age of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. from 539 BC to about 333 BC. That was the age of the Medo Persian Empire, so on and so forth. So today, we're at the very end of the age of Esau's empire, which began with the Greeks, and ended, and is going to end with America, which is the 8th head out of the 7. All right. So they wanted to know when it was going to be the end of this world, this age, because they wanted the kingdom. And this is why one of the very first things they asked the Messiah when he came to break bread with them after he was crucified was what? Will thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? Because they understood that now it was time for Israel to rule. But what they didn't understand was that that empire had to fall, come back into power, and then fall again. Because America is, and as allies, is a revival of the ancient Roman Empire. But today, they're at a grander scale than they were back then. Today they have the power over the entire planet. They have superior technology, superior weapon capability over the whole entire earth. But what's happening now, prophecy alert, is that the skirt is being lifted up off of Esau. And they're starting, their weaknesses are starting to show. And the nations are seeing these weaknesses and exploiting these weaknesses. And that's why you have a conglomeration of different nations coming together as allies with one common enemy, which is America. And we have here in Zero Hedge the end of U.S. military dominance. Unintended consequences forge a multipolar world order. Multipolar world order. All right. So pretty much, U.S. dominance is in its waning years, and pretty much this is biblical prophecy. When we read through the scriptures, which we're going to get some of this article, but let's read Jeremiah 50 verse 18. It says, "Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, the power of Israel, behold, I will punish the king of Babylon and his land as I have punished the king of Assyria." Now we know that this is not talking about ancient Babylon or ancient Assyria, because of what's written in the following verses and even the verses above this. This is talking about Jeremiah 50, Jeremiah 51, parts of Jeremiah 49 are speaking specifically about America, Babylon the Great. This would be a future prophecy that was written back roughly around a good 2600 years ago or so, give or take. And back then, the prophets may have thought that it was speaking about ancient Babylon, but it ain't. It wasn't. It's speaking about today. And as we read on, it says, "And I will bring Israel again to his habitation." And we didn't really go back to our habitation back then, because back then, really, mainly Judah were the ones that went back to that land after the Babylonians fell. Right? It says, "And he shall feed on Carmel and Bashan, and his soul shall be satisfied upon Mount Ephraim and Gilead. In those days and in that time, saith the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, the iniquity of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none." So we know that this is not talking about back then, because the iniquity of Israel is still upon Israel today. Although Yahushai died for Israel and took away our sins, that hasn't really been fully fulfilled yet, because the kingdom isn't established just yet. And when we go to let's go to two precepts real quick. Romans 11 and Hebrews 8. Let's go back to Romans 11 and 26. It says, and so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. Now the ungodliness is taken away by Yahushua, but it's still upon Jake out here. So when will this fully be fulfilled? In the kingdom of heaven. Hence, Hebrews the 8th chapter, or Jeremiah the 31st chapter, which is dealing with the new covenant, which is the Lord putting his laws into our inward parts, which was, that second covenant was sealed by Yahushua's blood, but it hasn't been fully implemented yet, because the laws are not in our inward parts. We are not perfected in that manner yet. Our bodies haven't been changed yet, because remember, like the Apostle Paul said, the spiritual, this physical body, or this mortal body, or this corruption cannot inherit incorruption, and the kingdom of heaven is incorrupt. The law, statutes, and commandments are incorrupt. So we, being in these bodies, can't inherit those blessings yet. This is why we have to be changed. So this is why hasn't been fully fulfilled yet. So Hebrews 8 and 6, but now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is a mediator of a better covenant, which is established upon better promises. Because the first covenant, which was pretty much, the covenant was flawless as far as the covenant is concerned, but the faults or the shortcomings was not the law itself or the promises, but us, the people. We were the ones that were at fault. So we had to keep everything in there in an imperfect state that we were in. And it was impossible for us to keep every law and every commandment and statute in there to receive the benefits that the Lord said he would give us if we obeyed him, because we were in a weak state and in these bodies, these chains of darkness. So what the Lord did was he sent Yahushua down and sealed the new covenant, which, as we're reading, is established upon better promises, which would be us being changed, our bodies being changed, and those laws that we are to keep to be put within our spirit, so that the promises that were promised to us would be given to us, and that we would be able to keep that agreement that the Lord made with us perfectly. So it says, for if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. So how was the covenant faultless? Not because of the covenant itself, but because of us. It says, for finding fault with them. With who? With Israel. He saith, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. And these wacky-tacky Christians, these plantation terrorists, Christians, do not want to deal with the fact that this new covenant is made with Israel and Judah only. They'll talk about the new covenant, but they won't talk about who it's made for or to. They'll say it's made for everybody, and there is no scripture that they can find in the Bible that says that. The two main scriptures that speak about the covenants, which is Jeremiah 31 and Hebrews 8, which is the agreement that the Heavenly Father made. He made it clear who this covenant was made to. It was made to the house of Judah and to the house of Israel. Why? Because the nation of Israel was split into two. Bottom line. And a part of that covenant is to bring back the tribes back together. It says, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant. Why? Because we were not perfect. But we understand that that was the purpose of the Lord. He had a purpose. It says, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, and that's why we as a nation fell. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days. After what days? After the days that we're going through right now. The days prior to the kingdom. Because once the kingdom is established, part of the kingdom being established and the reward that will be given is deliverance out of America into the chariots and wherever the brothers are in the world that are going to be delivered. Bodies being changed before we hit the chariot. Laws inserted into our minds, rebooted, resuited, and ready to execute it. Shalaki, brothers. So it says, for this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shai. I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a power, and they shall be to me a people. So that's the promises that we're waiting for. You know, and this is why we know that at this particular time the kingdom hasn't been established yet, and these laws, statutes, and commandments haven't been put into us yet. The second covenant isn't fully fulfilled yet. Our brother King Yahweh the Maccabees put excellent scripture, Ezekiel 36:25. Then will I sprinkle clean water upon you, and you shall be clean from all your filthiness, and from all your idols will I cleanse you. A new heart also will I give you. Yeah, because this stony heart has to be taken out, and the fleshly heart has to be put in. And a new spirit will I put within you. Why? Because it's going to be a spirit to do, not just know, but to do all of the right things. Anything we do is going to be total righteousness. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh and will give you I will take a stony heart out of your flesh and will give you an heart of flesh, which will be able to absorb righteousness, absorb the law, statutes, and commandments. Not like now, you know, where we have to what's that scripture? We have concordances, and you know that we have to type in certain words or go on Google, type in certain words to try to find certain precepts. It's just going to be right there, bam, 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 bam. And I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you shall keep my judgments and do them. You know, so that's pretty much what the second covenant is all about. So it says, after those days, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shai, I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and will be to them a power, and they shall be to me a people. All right, so this is how we know that this scripture in Jeremiah 50 hasn't been fulfilled yet. Because when the Lord said that the iniquity of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none, Jacob is covered in iniquity. The only ones that are not covered in that iniquity are what? The elect. You know, and the elect still go off. But they're covered. Because the Lord is not charging them with that folly or with that sin. It says, and the sins of Judah, and they shall not be found. For I will pardon them whom I reserve. See? So you have an elect that the Lord has reserved, you know, and in the kingdom, the ones that don't make it on this side will be on the ticket, so to speak, of those that do make it. You see? It says, go up against the land of Marathaim, and the brother Yashalam, the English brother from the New York camp, he went into a lesson on this Marathaim because you know, he did a lesson on it, a very edifying lesson. And pretty much the word Marathaim goes back to the word for bitterness. And these Marathaim and Pekah were two nicknames for Babylon. But it's not talking about ancient Babylon, it's talking about modern day Babylon. So Marathaim, which means bitter or bitterness, is the same as the term America, which means bitterness, or comes from the Spanish word amargo, which means bitterness, you know. And this has been a place of bitterness, you know, for all the tribes. It says, against the inhabitants of Pekah. Now, I forgot what the word Pekah meant. I had looked it up before. So let's look it up again. Pakwawad, visitation. All right, so because the Most High is going to visit, or punishment, yeah, because America is not only the land of bitterness, but it's also the land of the Lord's visitation. And when we read in Second Thessalonians, Revelation 17, it says that this eighth beast, when it comes up, it goeth into perdition, and that is the punishment or the visitation that the Lord is going to bring upon it. So these are two names or two nicknames for America: Babylon the Great, Marathaim, bitterness; Pekah, visitation or punishment. Let me read that again. Go up against the land of Marathaim, even against it, and against the inhabitants of Pekah, waste and utterly destroy after them, saith the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shai, and do according to all that I have commanded thee. And this is the commandment of the Lord. That's why the Lord himself said that when these missiles are shot, from these different countries, allies of America included, they will be guided directly by the Most High. Why? Because he's the one that gave the commandment, and he's the one that's going to make sure that everything goes according to plan, because his name is riding on everything. It says a sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction, and you hear that right now. This is why we're reading articles like this: the end of U.S. military dominance, unintended consequences forge a multipolar world order. And pretty much the consensus around the world is the same. America is a plague. America is a piece of shit. America has abused her power. They've been pushing their weight around long enough. Now it's time for them to back the fuck up. Like the song Onyx did back in the 90s. So it says the sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? See, so the hammer of the whole earth is cut asunder. Let's look up this word, cut asunder. Gadai. To cut, hew, chop, cut down, hew off, cut into two, shave off. So pretty much America's been knocked down a few pegs. That intimidation tactic that they employed for a long period of time is not working anymore. These nations are fully awoke as to your deception, as to your workings, the things that you've been doing, the things that you've been pushing on the planet. And they're tired of your bullshit. And they are retaliating. And they are not, they're not putting up with your bullshit anymore. They're aligning themselves with these other nations that can give them protection, give them armaments, give them whatever it is that they need to build up their defenses, and pretty much they got their back. So how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? Now let's look up the word broken. Should be shabar. Yep. Nope. This one. Yep. Shabar. To break in pieces, break in or down, rend violently, wreck, crush, quench, and eventually America will be broken, really broken. Right now, they're broken because they don't have the intimidation that they use is not working like it used to. Back then they would say something and people would just snap into place. Now, it ain't working anymore. Because now the Lord is raising up these nations to get ready to totally destroy this place. Check this out. To be broken, be maimed, be crippled, be wrecked. So America is like a car wreck, or a car that has broken down on the side of the road. And some cars will break down and you could tinker with it a little bit and get it going. But America is not allowed to really move from that spot. And if she moves, she's only moving very little because the Lord is slowing her horses down. You know? So let's read that again. It says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? And this ultimately is speaking about when America is totally annihilated and destroyed. You know, but prior to her being annihilated and destroyed, they will be broken down and their power will wane and their power will be lost. You know, and they won't have the power as they did back in the days. You know? So now let's go and read some of this article, and then I got a couple of other precepts. It says, starting from the presidency of George W. Bush to that of Trump, the U.S. has made some missteps that not only reduce its influence in strategic regions of the world, but also its ability to project power and thus impose its will on those unwilling to genuflect appropriately. And the word genuflect is when you pretty much bow as a form of worship. You know, you bow on one knee to show your allegiance or your fealty to a particular individual, in this case this a particular country, and they're not doing this properly anymore. They may do it feignedly to receive money or benefits from America, but on a whole nobody really respects America anymore. And you can see it in the actions of these different nations, you know, because they've seen America's tactics and the way that they roll. It says some examples from the recent past will suffice to show how a series of strategic errors have only accelerated the U.S. hegemonic decline. See? So they're in decline, much like the scriptures are saying. Matter of fact, before I read any more, let's go to Isaiah 14:4. That thou shalt take up a proverb. This is talking about when we get ready to be, this is how we know we're almost out of here, getting ready to be delivered. Because the Lord said that when he was about to free us from our captivity, this is what we would be doing. Exactly what we're doing right now. It says that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. And that's what's happened. They're ceased. You know, they have been made to cease and desist. Let me see, the words for cease is Shabbath, which is the Sabbath or rest. To cease, desist, rest. So they've been pretty much at a standstill. So we're saying to Babylon the Great, the king of Babylon, which at this time happens to be Trump, which is under the orders of the international bankers, is how hath the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased. You don't have the influence on these nations like you used to have. So what happened? You know, you was the big bad bully. You know, you was puffing and puffing at everybody. You was talking shit. You was Muhammad Ali and everybody talking shit. You know, talking about how pretty you were and how you gonna do this and how you gonna do that and how these nations move like mummies and, you know, and now your shit is at a standstill. You can't enforce your will like you did in the past. You know, so what happened? What happened, Mr. or Miss Big Bad America? What happened to you? The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. So pretty much you're in decline now because the Most High broke your power. So you can't enforce your will on the world as you did once because you're on a steady decline. You're in your waning years. Your shit is old and tired and you're on a downward spiral, circling the drain, about to be totally flushed down the toilet. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, which is what they did, he that ruled the nations in anger, which is what he did is persecuted and none hindereth. So pretty much you're being persecuted now. You know, you're being left out of the picture. You used to be in the top of everything. You used to being the one that influences everybody and gets everybody together to be on your side, and you lean on them if they don't comply with you. You make their life difficult until they agree with you and submit to your will. But you can't do that anymore because your power is slowly but surely diminishing and being taken away. That's why we read here. It says ABM plus INF hypersonic supremacy. The decision to invade Afghanistan following the events of September 11, 2001, while declaring an axis of evil to be confronted that included nuclear-armed North Korea and building regional hegemony Iran, can be said to be the reason for many of the most significant strategic problems besetting the U.S. And these things are things that the Lord made these devils to do to expose them to the world. Because remember, the Lord said that he will spew shameful spewing on your glory. Because the people of the world know that the way you got your riches and your status was through deceit, cheat, rape, robbery, and murder. First, you stole the land from the so-called North American Indians, the Seminole Indians, and the so-called Mexican Indians, which is the tribe of Gad, Reuben, and Issachar. Then you stole Canada from the natives up there. You stole Mexico from Issachar. You stole Central America from Zebulon. You stole South America from Asher. You stole the Caribbean islands from Ephraim, Manasseh, Simeon, so on and so forth. And you establish yourself upon a set of principles that you don't follow. And this is the same way that you've been slowly but surely taking over the whole planet by the same tactics: deception, war, divide and conquer, and all of those things in between. It says the U.S. often prefers to disguise its medium to long-term objectives by focusing on supposedly more immediate and short-term threats. Thus, the U.S. withdrawal from the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty, ABM Treaty, and its deployment of the Aegis combat system, both sea and land-based, as part of the NATO missile defense system, was explained as being for the purposes of defending European allies from the threat of Iranian ballistic missiles. This argument held little water, as the Iranians had neither the capability nor intent to launch such missiles. And this is what's happening. That shameful spewing is being put upon your glory. Your tactics of lying about people and false witnessing against people and slandering these people is not working, because other communities around the world are seeing that. No, they're saying that this about this country, they don't. How can they say that when this country doesn't have the capability to do what they're saying that they're going to do? So they're seeing through your tactics, Yep, like the elder Malcolm said, crazy thing is that the staff of the wicked is being broken here, and their own country with their own citizens as well. People are tired of that bullshit. This place is finished. Yeah, that's right. And we see it on all different levels. That's why the Spirit had Elder Apostle Tar label 2020 as a year of prophecy. And that this thing has been popping off like popcorn. Matter of fact, before I read on more, there's another article here. It says a plague of locusts, earthquakes in divers places, and weather that has gone completely nuts. And pretty much, it says it is almost as if someone flipped some sort of switch as 2020 began. Yeah, the someone is Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, because we have been seeing really weird things happen all over the globe so far this year. It hasn't even been a month yet. Later in this article, I want to talk about the large earthquakes and strange weather events that we have seen over the past few days. But first, I want to discuss the massive armies of locusts that are voraciously eating crops in Asia And in Africa, right now, a deadly invasion by millions and millions of locusts in India is absolutely devastating farm after farm. And the media in India is calling this locust invasion the worst in over 6 decades. And pretty much what is this bringing? This is bringing a shortage of food, which brings what? It brings famine. And Yahushua said that when he comes back, there's going to be what? Famines and earthquakes in diverse places. So the prophecies are speaking, man. And the prophecies are going nuts, for lack of another term for it. You know? So let's see where we at. Okay, so we read this. So let's go back to the article and put this here so I can know where we're at. It says, as was immediately clear to most independent analysts as far as to President Putin, the deployment of such offensive systems are only for the purposes of mollifying the Russian Federation nuclear deterrence capability. Because this is what Esau is trying to do. They're trying to encircle Russia and place their weapons in strategic places, and using a guise, a phony guise of, it's for such and such and for this and for that, but it's really to get closer to their main enemy, which is Russia, to try to neutralize that country. See, because a bully can't be a bully if they have someone else that can stand up to them. You see? But the Lord is systematically breaking down Babylon the Great. And I mean, this place is being systematic. If you have the eyes to see, you see that this place is systematically being broken down politically, monetarily, financially, morally, so on and so forth. Obama and Trump faithfully followed in the steps of George W. Bush in placing ABM systems on Russia's borders, including in Romania and Poland. Following from Trump's momentous decision to withdraw from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, INF, it is also likely that the New START, Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, will also be abandoned, creating more global insecurity and with regard to nuclear proliferation. Moscow was forced to pull out all stops to develop new weapons that would restore the strategic balance. Putin revealing to the world in a speech in 2018 the introduction of hypersonic weapons and other technological breakthroughs that will serve to disabuse Washington of its first strike fantasy. See, because this is what they want. In order for them to, they know that Russia is a power to be reckoned with. So in order for them to so-called think that they win, they will have to strike first, and this is why they're approaching the borders of Russia so that they can have a quick response to strike them first. But it's all in vain. Joel 3:9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Break up the mighty men, let the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say I am strong. So who is proclaiming for these nations to wake up? The Most High. He's the one that's assembling them. He's the one that's bringing this force and these armies together to fight, because the Lord has a purpose, and he's in all these steps that he's causing these pawns to make. It's pretty much bringing the end closer and closer, and the prophecies together to being fulfilled. All right, let me go back here. I'm going to read this again. Isaiah 14:6. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted and unhindereth. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. This is talking about after the destruction of America, Babylon the Great. Everything will be back at peace. It says, yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no feller has come up against us, because there's not going to be no more abuse of the mineral resources of the world once this devil is finally put down. Because this devil's greed has brought the earth to the brink of destruction. And if the Lord doesn't stop this madman, he would cause the earth to just fall apart. You know? It says, hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. Meaning what? The position, a low condition is waiting for you. From your lofty state that you're in right now, your heavenly state, to a hellified state, which is what? It's going from having the best of everything, being looked up as the best of everything, you know, having a one for nothing, to being a complete total slave to your every beckon, you know, your every thought would be nothing but subservience to the people that are going to rule next, which are the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. It stirreth up the dead for thee, and even these nations are going to be stirred up, you know, because they're going to fuck you up in the kingdom too. It says even all the chief ones of the earth and all these major nations that you've been fucking with, they're going to be kicking you in the ass too. It hath raised up from the thrones all the kings of the nations. So all these kings of these nations that you've been fucking with, they're going to fuck with you. You know, all they shall speak and say unto thee, and this is what they're saying now. Art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? So pretty much, they're saying, wait a minute, you was this big bad power, you know, you had all this mouth, because that's another thing that America has that great, and this guy Trump fits that, man. When we read Daniel the 7th chapter about that mouth, it was given a great mouth speaking great things. You know, that's America all the way. And this devil Trump, he fits that. You know, even though, you know, it's speaking in general of America and their policies against these different nations, but Trump is a good prop, so to speak, you know, and a good example of this great mouth that's speaking great things, you know. But these nations are saying, wait a minute, you know, art thou become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? What happened? You had this power. How is your power waning? You know, how are you losing your title? And that's what's happening. They're losing their title. It's just like a boxer. He's the greatest boxer, but as he gets older, he gets a little slower. His techniques aren't as crisp. You know, his moves aren't as crisp, even though he has the experience. But he's losing speed. And then you have younger prospects that are coming up the ranks that want that crown. So for them to get the crown, they come against the old champ, and eventually, you know, somebody takes that champ out because he gets old. Well, America right now is like an old lady that's trying to still get in the boxing ring. You know, I mean, they still got a couple of moves left, but pretty much they're done. And these nations are seeing that. They're seeing the weakness of America, and this is why they telling her, get the hell out of our land. You know, as it tells us in Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. It says, thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and this place is proud. And there's not a more proud nation out there than Esau, as we read in the book of Obadiah. Their pride is to the, you know, they're proud like the eagle. Their pride is above and beyond, but that pride is being brought down to the grave, meaning what? To hell, meaning to a low state. And the noise of thy vials is what? Your music. You know, this lousy music that's out here, and also that song that you've been singing to these people, they ain't trying to hear that shit no more. That democracy and, you know, bringing prosperity to these different nations, they ain't trying to hear that song no more, dog. They finished. They tired of your shit. Your shit is tired, man. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. Now the worm spreading under them represents corrosion. Your system is corroded. Your politics are corroded. But this is mainly going into the infrastructure of America, but also their policies and all that are all corroded. Everything is corrupt the way that they got it. It says, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? So how did you fall from this great lofty state that you were in, governing and ruling over the people, having everybody genuflect to you, bow to you, in a form of respect, in a form of awe and laud, that everybody wanted to come to this nation to become a great nation like you, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. And now they're starting to see, wait a minute, all that glitters ain't gold. So they starting to see that this was nothing but fool's gold. But it just appeared nice for the moment. But then wait a minute, I'm starting to see rust spots on this gold, shit's starting to corrode. Shit is starting to wear over here. What the fuck is that behind there? Nothing but zinc and ore and different other lesser metals. So they're starting to see through that cheap veneer. They're starting to see the truth about you. That's a good precept. The brother Barack Obama put up, Luke 10:18, and he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. These devils are heading for a great fall, man. And Yahushua saw it from back then. He saw this revival of the Roman Empire falling and being destroyed, and their armies being destroyed. And he saw himself doing it. How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nation? So how are you cut down to the ground, man? You being brought down to a servant slave level. You was like that mistress or that master that lost everything. And now the people that you had in slavery, are licking their chops to get at you, And that's how these nations are looking at you. As slaves that broke free from their master, and now they're requiring their licks. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, which they did. I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High, which they did. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation, which they did, which is the nation of Israel, in the sides of the north, in North America. And you did this, okay? You did this, inside joke. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. They did that. I will be like the Most High. And this is why they're trying to manipulate people's genes. This eugenics thing. Manipulate people's genes, create the perfect human being, get rid of all the flaws, all the human flaws, and create the perfect being. Because they're trying to be like the Most High. This is why they're merging man and machine with AI, artificial intelligence, to create the perfect man where they won't die, where they can live forever. But they can't master the one ingredient that can cause all of this to happen, for everlasting life to happen. And that is how to capture the spirit, the soul. Because the spirit, that soul, is what keeps the body alive. Once that soul or that spirit is called back to the Father, then that body dies. So they haven't mastered the technique or ability to capture the human spirit or the human soul. And this is why they try to record people's thought patterns, their dreams, because they're trying to understand the spirit and how they can control and manipulate it and store it. They're trying to capture that, but they can't, because the Most High is the King of the Father of spirits, not you. All right. Yea, thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. So you're going to be brought down to a very low state. And all these nations right now they're looking at you, and eventually the whole world is going to look at you. It's going to go from you being worshipped as the Heavenly Father and so-called Jesus and the angels and these great people, to the real pieces of shit that you really are. The cavemen, the base people of the earth. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee, and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? Is this the man? This is the person, this is the piece of shit we've been bowing down to, lauding and thinking that this was the model to try and become, because this is what they do. This is the measuring stick. Esau is the measuring stick for righteousness. You know, for everybody wants to be like this devil, because they think that the Heavenly Father and his son look like this devil, and they think that that's the measuring stick of how to be. That's why you have these Moabites coming over here, blonding their hair. The Moabite women wanting to get with the so-called white man so that their babies can come out without those chinky eyes. That's why the black woman, they'll get weave put in their hair, and then they'll have it blonde, you know, to look like Esau. They're lightening their skin, you know, they bleaching their skin. And all nations are trying to be like Esau. You had this stupid asshole Sammy Sosa that bleached his skin so much. He was dark as hell, and now he looks like Michael Jackson. You know, he lightened his skin so much. You know, all this self-hate that was imposed upon you by the one that's ruling over you, the so-called white men, these Edomites. They made you feel inferior, and made you feel that the color of your skin and the texture of your hair was inferior to them. So they made you change your looks, made you change your ways to try to become him. And he is the basis of all men. The color of their skin, the texture of their hair is the bottom of the pile. That's the worst of everything. But they made you conform to them. That's why the scriptures say. Let's get that real quick. Let's go to Jeremiah 2:33. It says, why trimmest thou thy ways to seek love? Therefore hast thou also taught the wicked ones thy ways. So you're trimming your ways to seek love, because you think that that is the way to be, because they've pushed that out there so much. It permeated your psyche, your subconscious, to now that is the accepted norm. If you don't look like them, then you're not as good as them. When everything you do is greater than what they do. In this lower state we find ourselves in. So imagine if we were set up into power, how much greater we would be. But this is all a part of that deception. You know, that's slowly but surely being lifted off. And this is why even the nations out there are seeing through this devil. And this is why we're reading in this article the end of U.S. military dominance. Unintended consequence forge a multipolar world order. So pretty much everyone is seeing through your BS. Let's go back to this article. Even as Washington's propaganda refuses to acknowledge the tectonic shift on the global chessboard, because the Most High is moving these pieces, occasioned by these technological breakthroughs. Sober military assessment, acknowledgement that the game has fundamentally changed. That's right, because why? The Most High is changing the world. He's changing the rulerships. He's manipulating the pieces on the chessboard to move them to checkmate the person that is in control today, which is Esau, Edomites, to set up his son Yahushai back up into power with the Israelites underneath him, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. So there's a shift going on, you know, and the Lord is systematically breaking down the rulers of this world, which are the Edomites. There is no defense against such Russian system as so the Most High is given Russia, which is one of the major players in bringing you down, superior technology as far as weapons are concerned. But this is just to bring you down, because you're going down in an hour, and that don't take long. You're going down. Your whole shit is you're going down, man. You're up against the ropes, you know. You're woozy. Your legs are gone. You know, them liver shots been fucking you up. You know, you've been hitting the liver so long that your arms are down, so you keep getting hit now with that left hook. With that left hook, and that's tearing your head up, and you're so weak and so hurt in that liver that you can't even lift your arm up to defend yourself anymore. So this is the Lord systematically breaking you down. It says there is no defense against such Russian system as an avant-garde hypersonic glide vehicle, which serves to restore the deterrence doctrine of mutually assured destruction, MAD, which in turn serves to ensure that nuclear weapons can never be employed so long as this balance of terror exists. Moscow is thus able to ensure peace through strength by showing that it is capable of inflicting a devastating second strike with regard to for Washington's vaunted ABM system. So you thought that you had it all sewed up, but the Lord is the master chess player, the master strategist, man. He got the players in place, and he's given the players all of the instruments that they need to take you down. And what this is doing also to Russia and other countries is it's emboldening them and making them proud, because they're thinking that they're going to be the next superpower. But they're also in that great deception. Remember, the Lord said that the deceived and the deceiver are his. In addition to ensuring its nuclear second strike capability, Russia has been forced to develop the most advanced ABM system in the world to fend off Washington's aggression. This ABM system is integrated into a defensive network that includes the Panzer TOR Buck S-400 and shortly the devastating S-500 and A-235 missile systems. This combined system is designed to intercept ICBMs as well as any future U.S. hypersonic weapons. The wars of aggression prosecuted by George W. Bush, Obama, and Trump have only ended up leaving the U.S. in a position of nuclear inferiority. Vis-a-vis Russia and China, Moscow has obviously shared some of its technological innovations and a strategic partner, allowing Beijing to also have hypersonic weapons together with ABM systems like the Russian S-400. So you're in trouble, Jack. You're in trouble, Jack. Esau, you're done. You're finished. You know, there's no hope for you. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her. So you're being forsaken, man, because it's time for you to go down. It's time for this tyrannical system to go down. Matter of fact, let's go to let me save that just in case. Let's go to oh man, just had a precept that came to mind. Oh, Isaiah chapter 33 verse 1. Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled, and when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. And this is what it's coming down to. You know, your treachery and your spoiling that you committed on the planet Earth is turning back upon your own head. That's why it says, woe unto thee that establish a city by blood, because blood is going to pursue you. You know, and when you set up something under those pretenses and that shameful way, it's always going to come back and bite you in the ass. And that's what's happening right now. You know, the prophecies are taking a whole chunk out your ass. You know, and you're being exposed for the devil that you are. And your weaknesses are being exposed. You know? by the master strategist, the master chess player, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, which is the one that created you. So it's foolish for you to try to buck up against the powers of the heavens. The Most High created you, but you trying to buck up yourself against the Most High. Unbelievable. Esau, you are unbelievable, man. But you're going down anyway, regardless. So I put both of these articles in the description box. I didn't get a chance to read any more of this one here. But this is also, prophecy, It says, as if someone flipped on the switch in 2020. And the Spirit had Elder Pastor name it, the year of prophecy. And it came in with a bang, and it's still banging. All right, so with that, I pray that you brothers have been edified, and a few sisters, at the water for all the comments and scriptures you brothers been putting up. So like I didn't get to the comment board as much. I did read a couple of scriptures off of that comment board, and to water, for you brothers for putting those scriptures up there. So with that, I pray that you brothers have been edified. Till the next time I say Shalom. And making them proud, because they're thinking that they're going to be the next superpower. But they're also in that great deception. Remember, the Lord said that the deceived and the deceiver are His. In addition to ensuring its nuclear second strike capability, Russia has been forced to develop